Hey guys, I don't know what happened to the other link, but here we are. Hopefully, you can find me. The other link has disappeared. Oh my goodness. There's a lot going on, and you might be having it too. Yeah, there's that. All right. Well, I'm Coach Ariel Anderson, and today we're talking about fertility, your fertility journey. And the title I put was Extended Pause. So, why? What is that even about? So, what I've noticed is, and we've talked about this before, you know what I'm talking about, that the pause that comes and is being requested of your life, your body, often will come in those small signs. You know what I'm talking about, right? Those moments where you're in life, where you're in your fertility path, and a little sign pops up. And if you're like me, and you're in your when you're in your flow, you'll be like, "Oh, that's interesting. Let's pause for a second here. Hmm, what's that about?" An example would be, uh, something happens where your plans are interrupted so that you can't go and do something that you had planned. That actually, by doing that thing, your day was going to be quite full and you'd be over busy. You would not have those pauses and gaps that we've talked about, that space between that's so important to just breathe and exhale into. And yet, in that moment, one of two things can happen. If you're in your flow and you're in that intuitive, okay, I'm listening state, which happens sometimes, then you're listening, you're paying attention, and you're saying, thank you for that not working. I'm going to pause. I'm going to use this moment. I'm going to look around and feel relief that you're actually getting that space that you need, that you didn't provide for yourself because you were doing something out of obligation or your schedule demanded it. There was no way out of doing that meeting. Whatever it was, there was something that pushed you to keep having that, to do that. And then this happens and you're in your flow. So you're like, okay, this is it. Thank you. Thank you, universe, God, whatever it is that you believe in. Thank you, me, for this happening. Yeah, it might be frustrating. Yeah, it might have a lot of other ripple effects. And yet, here you are, and you're thinking, thank you for taking care of me when I wasn't able to do it in that moment. And then there's option two, which is often the case that when life is busy and full, like this morning when the live disappeared and I was not able to get in it, don't ask me what happened there. Thank you if you showed up and I wasn't there, but I'm here. And you can find this on the replay, right? Uh, so things happen and you think, oh my gosh, you don't accept it. So the flow is sort of an accept and surrender. Thank you. And then there's this other mode, which often happens, and it often happens to me too, even though I know, even though I'm coaching you differently, I'm coaching myself differently, that happens. Humanness happens, right? Where you think, what the absolute FUCK, this is not happening, and you panic and you stress, you contract, and those cortisol levels go up that we talk about all the time, and your body gets in a deeper state of stress than it was even from the act of that thing not happening or things going wrong. And so that's often the usual reaction is, oh, why is this happening to me? Then you're swimming against the current, and not in a great way, where you're attempting to make something happen that is clearly not going to happen. You waste energy, your cortisol levels go up, your stress level, that's all interconnected, are high. Yeah. And and that's often what happens, right? And this ripple effect happens. And then you're hard on yourself for being hard on yourself. You're hard on yourself for whatever happened that you could have, should have, would have, maybe another way, could have done things differently. And then you actually take up that space that could have been a pause, right? And you end up, you know, creating an effect that is not at all what you hope for, not at all what the universe, God, goddess was hoping to bring you. And yet there's so much juice inside of that too. Here's the thing. That one moment can happen. You can have your humanness. That's okay. We all do it, right? I just hope that there's a moment where you can take a breath, because here's the thing, and you know it, is that if you don't take that pause and something happens, you okay. But then if you take the pause later, at least when you realize, ooh, that could have gone down differently. I wish I'd been in my flow. But somehow you make that space. Maybe you have it on the weekend or later in the day, however that works. And you actually take that pause and you take a moment and you think, huh, what was that about? You reflect and you have a chance to realize, you know what? Maybe I need to add more spaces between things. Maybe I need to say yes to less. Yes to less. I didn't mean to rhyme there. You know me. Those rhymes just come. Maybe it's all that singing I do and making up songs when you're not around. I do that. That brings me joy. And so let's think about that for a second. So if you don't take that pause later, and here's what happens, and we've talked about this, and you've probably experienced it. If you have a really want to hear down in the chat moments where this has happened, where if you don't listen, then something else comes. And if you don't listen then something else comes. And each time it's amplified just a bit. And what happens is if you really aren't listening, maybe life feels really busy and overwhelming, and that can happen. And you can really not feel that you have time for pauses. And and yet, so what will happen is that it's this amplified version will come. And there are many different levels of that according to when you finally decide to listen. And if you've listened to me, I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna say there have been multiple times in my life where I didn't listen. And what did it bring? Like some I had disease come into my life. That was fun. Massive accident come into my life. Oh, great fun not even knowing your friends when they come home because you've had such a bad injury. The other things have crashed down. Most recently, I thought I was pausing, but then the truth was that there was a momentum that was happening. Often inside of our relationship, there's one person gets priority, and it's there are moments when the other person has to fight for time. Is essentially like, I need space, I need time. That's the reality. Inside of life, when you're busy, when you have a family, there are different dynamics. Your work can do it where you have to just create space. No one's going to do it for you, right? Do you know what I'm talking about? Those moments where you're like, I have to create the space. Does that happen to you? Where is there something in your life where there is something that you sort of have to fight or demand, command, create space because no one's going to do it for you, but things can easily push in and you have to just honor the space, but it's tricky. Like there's each of us have those things where it's easier to create boundaries and harder, you know, and it's different for all of us. I'd be curious down in the comments what, if anything, pops up where you're more challenged, and I'm happy to assist if I can in my own experiences of that. So here's a moment. You've heard me talk about it. Maybe you haven't, because in the last few lives, there have been some incidents, and they're all related to this little beauty right here who is having a long pause and created an extended pause for me. This phone slammed down and kind of worked for a couple of days. Now it doesn't seem like it's working at all, but it's talking through the computer a little bit. So I'm kind of limping along here and waiting for the new iPhone, which is taking forever. So I'm in an extended pause. Now, here's what I have to say about this. What does this have to do with fertility? Well, it has a lot to do with fertility because you and I both know that if you don't take those pauses early on and things start to amplify, that what happens is you get forced into it. Now, thankfully, this is happening. I rather the phone crash than me crash. Thankfully, I'm feeling really healthy. Thank you, God, Goddess, universe, for that, myself, for paying attention and doing things like drinking water and other things that are small steps inside of there of taking care, yet not enough. I've not done enough of a pause, and therefore the phone crashed down. And I paused when I felt like I needed to move forward. I wanted to move forward. There's not time for this. I got to keep going. Does that sound familiar? Now, I know it's not the same. Having to do things for my business, wanting to show up for you and alive without everything going wrong because I'm not used to using the computer. It's about the phone. We're talking phone and things. It is not the same. And I'm not for a moment calling it the same as you extending or creating your family. It's not. The similarities and why I'm talking about this is that I had to be forced. And now there's a lot of issues as a result of that. It's slowing me down a lot because my passwords are all inside of there. Somehow, a lot of my backup, where you restore things, are on old things and my number in Czech Republic because I didn't want to let go. I didn't want to work with the stuff that was happening with my past, which was that I needed to let go, not completely of Czech Republic, but of a lot of pieces to move forward. And I needed to work through it. It wasn't going to be letting go of check. It was about moving through a lot of things to make peace. This is where the relationship comes in. This is where the connection to uh, your fertility comes in. If you have had any losses, and I mean physically having a miscarriage, a loss, if you have had losses just in that you're not getting pregnant, things aren't working, that is a loss. That counts as a loss and it breaks something down. And often you and I, in different ways, and I did it too, and I still do for different things, want to just skip that step of grieving, of working through, of facing certain things that are popping up. And I'm not saying, maybe you've had therapy, maybe you've talked to people, maybe you've done a ritual or not. Yet, if it's not working, if your fertility is not working, there is something else. And it's worth trying each thing to uh, attempt to move through this that is blocking you. Okay. So for me, it's like, let's just keep trying it. We try something, fail. It's just like a new business. You try, you fail. You try, you fail. You try, look, that worked. Huh, that moved something. Huh, that didn't. So that's what we're doing here. So this is about taking a moment to look at something that you might be hanging on to. Maybe it's energetic, it's emotions, it's your experiences that you've had of loss of something else along the way in this fertility journey where it's somehow holding you back. And you may or may not know how it's holding you back, and that's okay. If there is something that comes to your mind like, oh, that's it, and you want to share and you want to put it down in the comments, I am happy to help or contribute to whatever that situation is. You also can write me at Ariel@imperfectparenting.net if you want a private conversation. I do that. I'm happy to do that. That is my gift to you. I could do that once in a while. I can't do it all the time. If you want to go deeper, then you come to the fourth Tuesday of the month. We have the private group where I go deeper with you. And all that's down in the description if you want that. Okay, let's keep going. So the thing is, my example of being forced into this extended pause, I'm thankful. And what I want to bring to you from this is that I am so thankful. It has slowed me down. I am actually, writing writing on paper and using a pen. I love that feeling of paper and a pen. I don't do it often because it's faster for me and my brain to quickly go into Google Docs, which I can, of course, still do here on the computer, but it doesn't have the same feeling for me as being on the go and writing something down. So the idea book came back and it's waking something in me. It's also stirring things and it's uncomfortable. And there's emotions that are coming with that. I didn't expect that part. And that's often part of what's happening inside of the fertility path is there are things that you need for you to come back to light you up. For me, it's writing with a pen and paper. This beast had to crash down in order for me to do that. to give me that extended pause, to be more still, to be more focused and in my life, to be present for the experience that's being asked for. And your fertility path is asking for the same thing, maybe in a different way, maybe in the same way. Something is asking for a pause. It's asking for you to be in full presence for you in the way that lights you up in order to be able to move forward. And I know that if you're on this path and if you've had a loss, like a body physical loss, it is the hardest thing to say to yourself, I'm going to wait 3 to 6 months. I think 6 months is better personally for physical, emotional, and relaxation of taking a break, stepping back, that extended pause. It's so needed to come back to you so that you can really be inside of this. I'm going to take a breath here with you, a deep breath, inhaling in and exhaling. I say thank you for being here. Gosh, I could go on. I realize this topic, there's a lot there. And I think that maybe that's going to be one of the pieces of our next meetup live on Zoom. And if that's interesting for you, join our community. Like I said, that will be down in the links. And if you're new here, then subscribe. If you're returning, then thank you for being here. And I didn't do that at the beginning. I just sometimes want to roll in with you. And you're in my heart. Keep going. Any questions you have about this or anything else, put them down there in the link in the comments. And you can always find me on live streaming if you don't have the link or if there's an issue and I'm not showing up in the other link. Just jump onto my channel. I have just added something I didn't even know was possible, which is live now. So jump in there because sometimes it's hard to find it when you Google, live Ariel YouTube. You might get the porn lady, and that's not me, but you just don't know. All right. I wish you a beautifully imperfect day. I will see you next Friday. Let's see. It's a first Friday, so I will see you at 9 a.m. Pacific next Friday. Otherwise, it's always Fridays at 10 a.m. Pacific. I am not on Instagram and whatnot as much. There's going to be a video coming out about that, I hope. I promised you videos, but the truth is, with the phone crashing, that changed things. That slowed me down, and that's okay. We'll talk about that later. This is your time. Take care. Bye.